Here at home, the Meyiwa Murder Trial today focused largely on the second docket. The High Court in Pretoria hearing that allowing the docket implicating other people who were in their house on the night when Meyiwa was shot dead is unfair. Advocate Silindelo Masikane telling the High Court in Pretoria that her client should have had access to this information in that docket before he had pleaded. Our reporter Silindelo Masikane was in court today following these proceedings. She's now joining me back here in the studio. Good afternoon, Silindelo. Welcome to today. Thank you very much for your time. Let's just talk about this docket 372. You and I spoke last week previewing what's going to happen on Monday, and we anticipated the cross-examination of the state's first witness to carry on. But lo and behold, Advocate Mshololo says, I have an application to make.
And I mean, I told you, you never know with court, right? You think one thing's going to happen and then you get there, something else happens. Something completely different happens. But of course, in terms of the trial resuming, I think in earnest it has. But of course, we have this application by Advocate Silindelo Masikane in terms of the fact that she is using the Section 317 of the Criminal Procedure Act, where she wants the court to note an irregularity in terms of how this court trial has actually unfolded, saying that her client's constitutional rights have been infringed upon or have been violated because the state failed to disclose everything around this particular case, in particular docket 375. You would remember that she only got possession of that actual docket back in June of this year, which is why we took an over 2-month postponement for her to be able to peruse the contents of that docket. And she came back today saying, look, I want to make this application because, you know, having perused this docket, I think my client may have wanted to have played in a completely different way as opposed to how he did, and basically now the damage has been done.
And that's accused number 5, eh?
That's accused number 5,
yeah.
And she's saying the damage has basically now been done.
Yeah, because the court has already recorded his plea and everything else.
Exactly, we've already laid evidence. We're in the middle of cross-examination. So she's saying that the state really should not be quite satisfied in the manner that it's conducting this trial, and she wants this particular irregularity to be noted by the court, that perhaps in future, if this matter then goes to the appeals court, they would have noted that this particular application had been made. Let's take a listen.
Your Lordship, I'm very concerned, and I agree with the court that 375, the court has made the decision that it is irrelevant with regard to the proceedings of 636. However, if the court entertains the application that is pending of 375, based on 375 docket, it will make it relevant. And even this letter on the 26th of August 2022 then makes it relevant to the proceedings. The state is like playing chess games. They inform the court about this letter but doesn't hand it in. Whereas this letter that was given to us today is different from the one we received by email. And my last submission will be that I will let representative of accused 5 to continue with the application. Then when we will reply, we'll deal with these all issues from the state side and including that application, Your Lordship.
That was not Advocate Mshololo.
Okay, that was TT Tobano for accused 124, but he was actually raising an issue around still on the NPA and their position on docket 375. You would remember that we spoke about a letter last week that was written to accused 124's attorneys saying that the NPA was going to wait for the conclusion of this trial to be able to make a decision on whether they're going to prosecute docket 375.
375
after the trial has concluded.
Yes.
But now in court, the letter that's submitted by the state says something completely different. It says that the NPA is now studying docket 375.
Conflicting messages
yeah,
from the NPA.
What TT Tobano was raising there is that there's something that's not adding up, because the letter he has and the one that's been handed up in court are not the same.
Okay, so Advocate Mshololo making her point,
yes.
TT Tobano making a point. What about the state? What about Mr. Baloyi?
So, of course, we had the state then responding just before the end of the day this afternoon, asking the court to dismiss the application, saying that it was premature and that, in fact, many of the issues raised by Mshololo have been noted on record, and that this particular application was just unnecessary. Let's take a listen.
Make the submission that the application for a special entry is premature and ought to be dismissed, and we advance the following reasons. Firstly, And we will refer to the relevant case law in this regard. In paragraph 1.2.1, we say that special entries are a route to the appeal court and therefore presupposes that there must be a verdict of guilty. And we are making the submission that there hasn't been such a verdict in Kasu.
I think these early stages of the Senzo Meyiwa Murder Trial will be remembered about this docket 375. Okay, so the arguments were made for and against about this. Do we expect a decision tomorrow, and what else is likely to happen in court tomorrow?
Yeah, so we are expecting a decision tomorrow in terms of this application by Advocate Mshololo in terms of Section 317 of the Criminal Procedure Act. And then we expect the cross-examination of Sergeant Thabo Mosia to continue. He was actually in court this morning but was dismissed so that we could be able to continue and hear this application. So sometime tomorrow then we expect Advocate Mshololo to then continue with her cross-examination, and also of course depending on the decision that's made in terms of her application, which shouldn't have a material impact on the trial actually concluding for the entire week, because the sitting is set down for the next 2 weeks.
For the next 2 weeks. Okay,
Yes.
So back tomorrow in court 10 o'clock in the morning?
Back tomorrow in court tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Thank you very much. Silindelo Masikane giving us the latest of what happened and want to anticipate or expect tomorrow in court in the Senzo Meyiwa Murder Trial.